You are knee-deep in river water that feels like it's trying to peel the skin off your legs. The current isn't loud the way people imagine. There's no heroic roar, just a steady, ruthless push that never lets up, a pressure that keeps testing every joint in your body like it's searching for the weakest place to snap you. Your wagon is halfway in, crooked, the right wheel dropped into a hidden hole, and the whole load has shifted. The canvas cover is dark with spray. The oxen are straining so hard you can see the cords of muscle along their shoulders and the foam on their mouths. One of them slips, and the yoke jerks sideways. The sound is wrong. Wood groaning, leather snapping, a sharp clack like a bone hit with a hammer, and you feel it travel through your arms because you're gripping the sideboard and the wet wood is slick as fat. The river keeps climbing your thighs, creeping higher. You can taste mud and iron, like licking a rusty nail. The rope you trusted, your one good rope, goes tight, then winds, then suddenly goes slack. Slack is the word your brain offers you, calm and simple, but your body knows what it means before you do. The wagon is about to turn, the load is about to roll, your family is about to be inside the part of history that does not let you climb back out. Something heavy shifts under the canvas, and you hear the hard thump of a barrel breaking free. The barrel hits water and bobs once like a living thing, then spins away. You reach, but the current steals it. Another thump, a crate, then a sack, then the sickening scrape of the wagon box shifting on the axle. You are not thinking about romance or destiny. You are thinking about calories, dry powder, cloth for bandages, and the dull, practical fact that whatever the river takes is gone. The cold bites through your boots, up your shins, and into the places you didn't know could ache. The oxen bellow and lunge again. The wagon lurches sideways. For a moment, the water is at your waist, and you feel the river trying to fold you. You imagine your hands losing their grip, your head going under, the wagon wheel catching your coat and dragging you down like an anchor. You imagine the look on your child's face when they realize you can't stand up. And in that instant, you understand a new kind of fear. Not the fear of dying, but the fear of dying in a way that leaves the people you love without the parts of you they needed most. Welcome to the trail. Welcome to the part of American history that does not care what you meant to do, only what you managed to endure. This is a simulation told in second person because the only way to feel it is to be placed inside it. Your hands on the wood, your lungs full of damp air, your stomach already tightening around the math of survival. If you want to keep living through history like this, slow, detailed, and realistic, subscribe. It helps the channel keep going, and it helps you keep coming back to survive the next night, the next crossing, the next mistake. Now breathe. Pull yourself out of the river for a moment. Let the current fade to the back of your mind. You are going to go back to the beginning, back to the day you sold your life for a wagon, and you're going to watch how you walked into the disaster long before the water touched your skin.
You wake before daylight. Not because you're rested, but because you've trained yourself to wake before trouble. The room is stale and cramped, full of the smell of old wood, damp wool, and yesterday's breath. Your body feels wrong in the way it does when you've been living with one foot already outside the door. Sleep comes in scraps, never deep, because some part of you stays alert, listening. You sit up slow so you don't wake your family too early. The air is cold enough to sting your nose. Somewhere outside, a wagon wheel creaks in the dark as someone shifts their load. A horse snorts. A man coughs hard, deep in the chest. The kind of cough that tells you illness is already traveling with the emigrants, even before the trail begins. You pull your boots on and feel the cracked leather scrape your fingers. Your hands are rough, raw in places, split at the knuckles. There are cuts that won't heal right because you keep using them. You flex your fingers and feel the little aches that have become your morning greeting. When you step outside, the town is barely awake, but the trail is already moving. There's always movement. People on the edge of leaving don't sit still. They pace. They load. They argue without words. They stare down the road as if they can see months ahead. The street is dirt packed hard by hooves and wheels. The air carries smoke from cooking fires, thin and bitter, mixed with the smell of animal waste and the sourness of sweating bodies. You can smell fear, too, if you've lived long enough to recognize it. Fear has a dry smell, like dust in a closed cupboard. Your breath comes out pale and quick. You look at the sky, and it's the flat gray of early morning. No promise, no softness. Somewhere along the riverfront, a bell rings. It's not for church, it's for business, for time, for last chances. This is the part nobody paints. The leaving is not clean. The leaving is a market. You walk toward it with your shoulders tight, carrying the knowledge that every step is a trade you can't undo. Along the main street, men and women are already clustered around wagons like scavengers. You see barrels being rolled, sacks being thrown, the quick counting of nails and pounds of flour and lengths of rope. A blacksmith's shop is open early, the forge coughing sparks into the dim light. The metal smell is sharp and hot, a clean bite that sits under everything else. You watch a man bargain for a new set of wagon tongues. His face is drawn. His wife stands behind him with a baby pressed against her chest, staring at the ground like she's afraid to look up and see what's really happening. You feel the same in your own chest, a pressure that won't lift, because you're about to strip your life down to what can fit inside wood and canvas. You have already started selling. You started weeks ago, before you reached this jumping-off place, when you realized there wasn't going to be enough money unless you turned your past into cash. You sold furniture that had held your family's weight for years. You sold tools with handles shaped by your hands. You sold things that weren't worth much to strangers, but had carried your days like bones carry a body. Each sale took time, and each one left the house looking more hollow. You remember the rooms getting louder with emptiness. You remember the way your children's footsteps sounded different when there was less to soften the noise. You remember how your wife's face looked when she watched the last good chair go out the door. She didn't cry, not then, but you saw the tightening around her eyes, the way she swallowed hard like she was forcing down something that would have choked her if she let it rise.
Now you're in the place where everyone is doing the same thing, only faster. The market does not care about sentiment. Here, a spoon is a spoon, a blanket is a blanket, a rifle is a price. You keep your face still, you keep your voice calm, you make yourself hard, because softness costs money. You walk past a row of wagons for sale, some sturdy, some already warped, all of them pretending to be equal when you know they are not. You stop at one and run your hand along the wheel. The wood is dry. There are tiny cracks you can feel with your fingertips. Cracks mean failure, and failure out there is not a broken wheel, it's a stranded family, a sick child, a man walking into the grass and not coming back. You move on. You look for a wagon that hasn't already begun to die. The seller watches you. He's seen your kind all season, people with eyes that keep flicking to their children, people trying to look like they know what they're doing. You inspect the ironwork. You check the axle. You lift the canvas flap and smell the inside. Old sweat, old grain, old rain. Nothing is clean anymore. You imagine your family inside, night after night, breathing this same trapped air. You imagine sickness spreading in that space. You imagine lice. You imagine the slow rot of damp cloth. You do not stop imagining, because imagination is a tool. It hurts, but it keeps you alive. You pay. When the money leaves your hand, it feels like losing blood. You try not to think about what you just bought. Not a vehicle, but a commitment to suffering. You move to the supply stalls and you start the real work, turning money into time. Flour, bacon, beans, salt, coffee if you can afford it, candles, soap, a spare chain, nails, a file, a shovel, a small medical kit that looks too neat to be useful, but you buy it anyway because pretending you can treat illness helps you sleep. You choose a rifle and powder because food has legs out there and you will need to chase it. You choose a knife that feels heavy and mean in your palm. You buy rope,
more rope than feels reasonable, because rope is the difference between crossing a river and watching your world float away. All around you, people are preparing like they're trying to outsmart something enormous. You see men practicing with whips. You see women stitching canvas patches. You see children carrying buckets, tripping over uneven ground, learning early what it means to be useful. The soundscape is constant, hammering, shouting, animals complaining, wheels rolling, the murmur of prayers said under breath. The smell is layered and thick, frying fat, wet leather, manure, wood smoke, tar, and the sweet sour stench of overcrowded human bodies. It sticks to your clothes, it sticks in your hair. It becomes your new normal before you've even left town. You return to your family with your purchases, and you don't let your face show the weight of it. Your children look at the wagon like it's a promise. They are too young to understand that promises can be traps. They climb inside, touching everything, testing the canvas, looking at the bundles like treasures. Your wife moves more slowly. She checks what you bought, she counts, she rearranges. She does not argue, she does not complain. That's what scares you most. Complaints would mean she still believes the world is stable enough to negotiate with. Her silence means she already knows it isn't.
The day warms. By midday, the sun is an ugly white coin above the town, and heat starts to rise from the dirt. It bakes the smell of waste into the air until breathing feels like swallowing something dirty. Flies gather in black specks on everything sweet, everything wet. Sweat runs down your spine, your shirt sticks to you. You drink from a tin cup, and the water tastes like the barrel it came from, wood, metal, a hint of mold. You watch your children drink, and you measure each swallow. Water is heavy, water is life, and out there, it will decide your route more than your courage ever will. You take your wagon to the edge of town, where the trail gathers like a long, slow animal. Lines of emigrants stretch toward the horizon, wagons in uneven rows, oxen and mules shifting, stamping, chewing. You see faces from every kind of life, farmers, laborers, men with soft hands pretending they can harden them, women with eyes fixed forward, like if they look anywhere else they'll lose their nerve. You hear the talk, snatches of it, because people always talk when they're afraid. Some speak of fertile valleys in Oregon, of tall grass and easy hunting. Some speak of gold rumors. Some speak of land so wide you can disappear into it and never answer to anyone again. You listen, and you do not join in. Dreams are light, and the trail punishes lightness. You start to feel the doom is something physical, not an idea. It's in the way people keep glancing at the river. It's in the way seasoned men inspect wagon loads and shake their heads. It's in the fresh graves outside town, little mounds with crude markers where someone died before they even truly began. Cholera, dysentery, fever, accidents. The trail takes payment early, it takes it late, it does not miss a debt. As the afternoon drags, you load the wagon again and again, shifting weight, trying to balance survival against collapse. Too heavy and you break an axle. Too light and you run out of food weeks too soon. Every choice has consequences you can't see yet. You tie down barrels until your hands ache. You lash sacks into corners. You wedge tools where they won't shift. You test the ropes. You test the knots. You run the plan through your mind like a prayer. Keep moving. Keep dry. Keep fed. Keep the children warm. Keep the powder dry. Keep the wheels turning. You feel how thin your plan is. You feel how easy it would be for one bad moment to tear it apart. And still, you go. Because going has already happened inside you. The sale is already done. The life you knew is already gone. Even if you turned back tomorrow, you would return to something emptied by your leaving. That is the quiet cruelty. The trail starts long before the prairie. It starts when you trade certainty for a wooden box on wheels. Evening comes, and the town changes. Fires bloom along the outskirts. Smoke rises in lazy columns, then gets pressed down by cooling air. The smell of cooking is stronger now, more desperate. Bacon frying, beans simmering, coffee grounds scorching. You eat slowly.
You make sure your children eat first. You watch their faces as they chew, already tired, already learning to accept less. Your wife eats with her eyes lowered. You do not let yourself think too far ahead, because your mind will sprint into horrors you cannot prevent. But you do think of the river, because you saw it earlier, wide and brown, moving with a steady indifference. You heard a man say it's higher than usual this season. You watched another wagon come out with water in its bed, and you saw the driver's hands shaking as he checked his supplies. You tell yourself you'll be careful. You tell yourself you'll wait, watch others cross first, learn from their mistakes. Night falls. The sounds soften but never disappear. Animals shift, people cough, a baby cries until it's quiet again. Somewhere, a man retches in the dark, the wet sound carrying farther than it should. You lie down near your wagon, not fully inside it, because you want to be able to move fast if something goes wrong. The ground is hard. You can feel stones under your hip. The air turns cold enough to bite. You pull your coat tighter and stare at the sky. There are more stars than you remember, sharp and indifferent. They do not look down like witnesses. They look down like strangers. You listen to the river in the distance. It's a low, constant sound, not threatening, almost soothing if you let yourself pretend. But you don't, because you have children, because you are the father, because you are the one who has to stand between them and the parts of the world that don't care if they live. You close your eyes and you try to sleep. You think of home, of the smell of your old kitchen, of boards that didn't creak, of familiar faces. Then you force the thought away, because nostalgia is poison out here. You focus on the immediate, your hands, your breath, the weight of responsibility pressing down like a physical load. And beneath everything, beneath the crackle of dying fires and the shifting of oxen, you feel it again, that pressure, that coming thing. You don't know the date it will arrive, you don't know the exact shape it will take, but your body already believes in it. The trail is not just distance, the trail is a series of disasters waiting for a moment of weakness. Tomorrow you will take your wagon toward the water. Tomorrow you will test your rope and your knots and your luck. Tomorrow you will learn in the cold grip of a river that survival is not a story you tell later. It is a thing you do, minute by minute, with shaking hands, while the world tries to pull your life apart and carry the pieces downstream. You wake before the sun again, not because you choose to, but because the trail does not allow comfort to last. Your body feels stiff, as if it spent the night slowly turning to wood. The ground has stolen heat from you, and your joints protest when you roll onto your side and push yourself up. For a moment, you don't know where you are. Then the smell returns, cold ash, damp canvas, animal breath, and the truth settles back into place. You are no longer in a town. You are no longer surrounded by walls that belong to you. You are on the edge of something that will not bend. Around you, the camp is already coming apart. Fires are stamped out and smeared into the dirt. Blankets are rolled tight, shaking loose crumbs and bits of grass. Oxen are being yoked, their heavy heads swinging slowly, eyes dull and patient. They do not understand west or east. They only understand pressure and rest, hunger and the promise of water. You envy them that simplicity. You splash water on your face from a bucket that smells faintly of algae and old wood. It wakes you just enough to feel the fear again, sitting low and steady in your stomach. This is the morning you truly join the line. You help your family climb into the wagon, lifting each child carefully, feeling how light they are, how easily they can be carried. You tie the canvas flap down and check the knots twice. You do not trust your memory anymore. You trust repetition. You walk to the front and take the lead rope, the fibers rough against your palm. When you cluck and pull, the oxen lean forward, and the wagon creaks like it's complaining already. The sound cuts through you. That creak is going to be with you for months. It will seep into your sleep. It will mark time better than any clock. The trail moves slowly at first, like a wounded thing. Wagons bunch up, stop, start again. Someone ahead drops a chain. Someone behind shouts. You smell frustration in the air, sharp and hot, even in the morning cold. Dust begins to rise almost immediately. fine and pale, clinging to boots and hems. By the time the sun lifts clear of the horizon, the dust is already in your mouth. You taste it every time you swallow. You walk. That is the first lesson. You do not ride. Riding is for the sick, the very young, and the very lucky. You walk beside the wagon, one hand on the sideboard, feeling every jolt travel through the wood into your bones. The ground is uneven, rutted by hundreds of wagons before you. Each rut is a decision someone else made, and you are forced to follow it. The trail does not belong to you. You belong to it now. Hours pass without anything happening, and that is exhausting in its own way. The land rolls gently, covered in grass that looks endless and forgiving. From a distance, it almost convinces you this journey might work. But when you look closer, you see the bones, bleached white, half buried, ribs spread like broken fingers. Oxen, horses, sometimes cattle. You do not see human bones yet, but you see markers, rough wooden boards with names scratched shallow, already fading. Some have dates, some do not. You feel your chest tighten every time you pass one, because each marker is a quiet warning. Someone walked here with hope, too.
You listen as you walk. The trail is never silent. There is the constant low thunder of wheels, the squeal of axles that need grease, the soft curses of men lifting stuck tongues back into place. There is coughing, always coughing, dry coughs, wet coughs, coughs that sound like they tear something loose inside the chest. You hear crying sometimes, quickly smothered. You hear prayer, spoken under breath, the words worn thin from use. And underneath it all, there is the wind, moving through grass and canvas alike, indifferent to every plan being made beneath it. By midday, the sun is high and merciless. The cool of the morning is gone, replaced by heat that presses down on you like a weight. Sweat runs into your eyes, stinging. Your shirt darkens across the back and chest. The dust turns to paste on your skin. You drink sparingly, tipping the canteen just enough to wet your mouth, because you already understand that thirst will outlast generosity. You look up at the sky, pale and empty, and you feel very small. You begin to notice how people change as the miles stretch on. The excitement burns off quickly, like paper. Faces settle into blank concentration. Conversation fades. Everyone is doing quiet calculations now. Pace, distance, supplies, strength. You catch yourself doing the same, counting steps without meaning to, breaking the day into manageable pieces. You do not think about Oregon as a place anymore. You think about the next stop, the next water source, the next chance to rest your feet. When the wagons finally halt, it is not with relief, but with a kind of numb acceptance. You unhitch the oxen and lead them to water. The creek is shallow and slow-moving, its banks trampled to mud by the first arrivals. The water is cloudy, churned with silt and manure. You hesitate for half a breath, then let the animals drink. You fill your buckets from downstream, pretending it makes a difference. When you drink, the water tastes of earth and something faintly rotten. You swallow anyway. Camp goes up quickly. Everyone has learned that daylight is precious. Fires are small. Food is simple. A bit of bacon, beans if you have them, hard bread that scratches your throat on the way down. You watch your children eat and try to memorize the sight because you do not know how long it will stay this way. You force yourself to eat too, even when the food sits heavy and wrong in your stomach. You need strength tomorrow. You always need strength tomorrow. As evening settles, the temperature drops fast. Heat bleeds out of the land, leaving a sharp chill that creeps into your clothes. You pull your coat tighter and sit with your back against the wagon wheel, feeling its solid presence. The wheel feels dependable now. You do not yet know how easily it can betray you. You listen to stories drifting through camp, men talking about river crossings ahead, about sickness spreading through another train, about shortcuts that shave days off the journey but cost lives when they fail. You listen and say nothing. Advice is easy to give when you are not the one making the choice. Night comes fully, and with it, a different kind of awareness. The darkness is deeper out here, unbroken by lamps or windows. The stars are sharp enough to hurt your eyes if you stare too long. Sounds carry farther. A laugh from another fire feels too loud, too sudden. You lie down and feel every ache you earned during the day. Your feet throb, your shoulders burn, your hands cramp when you close them. You try to sleep, but your mind replays the day in fragments, the markers, the bones, the way the wagon shuddered over a hidden rock. You wake sometime before dawn to the sound of movement. At first, panic floods you, hot and fast. Then you realize it is only the night watch changing, boots scuffing softly, a man clearing his throat. You lie still and listen to your family breathing. Each breath is a small victory. You let yourself rest just enough to function. The days begin to blur together. Wake, walk, sweat, drink, eat, sleep. The rhythm becomes your world. You learn the creak of your own wagon, the way it sounds when the load shifts too far to one side. You learn the gait of your oxen, the slight hitch in the left one's step that worries you more than it should. You learn to read the sky, watching clouds with suspicion instead of admiration. Rain is a threat. Wind is a...
Night comes fully, and with it, a different kind of awareness. The darkness is deeper out here, unbroken by lamps or windows. The stars are sharp enough to hurt your eyes if you stare too long. Sounds carry farther. A laugh from another fire feels too loud, too sudden. You lie down and feel every ache you earned during the day. Your feet throb, your shoulders burn, your hands cramp when you close them. You try to sleep, but your mind replays the day in fragments, the markers, the bones, the way the wagon shuddered over a hidden rock. You wake sometime before dawn to the sound of movement. At first, panic floods you, hot and fast. Then you realize it is only the night watch changing, boots scuffing softly, a man clearing his throat. You lie still and listen to your family breathing. Each breath is a small victory. You let yourself rest just enough to function. The days begin to blur together. Wake, walk, sweat, drink, eat, sleep. The rhythm becomes your world. You learn the creak of your own wagon, the way it sounds when the load shifts too far to one side. You learn the gait of your oxen, the slight hitch in the left one's step that worries you more than it should. You learn to read the sky, watching clouds with suspicion instead of admiration. Rain is a threat. Wind is a threat. Even clear weather can be a threat if it lasts too long. You also begin to learn the people around you. Not their names matter less out here, but their habits. You know who rushes and who moves slow. You know which wagons you trust to follow through rough ground and which you avoid because their drivers are careless or desperate. You notice a family a few wagons ahead whose child is always coughing. You notice a man behind you whose hands shake when he lifts things. These details lodge in your mind without invitation. You do not want to judge, but you cannot stop assessing. Out here, weakness spreads. The trail narrows in places, cutting through low hills and scrub. The grass thins, replaced by rock and dirt. Your feet begin to blister. You wrap them in cloth at night and hope it helps. You feel the slow grind of fatigue settling into your bones. Not sharp, not dramatic, just constant. This is not suffering yet. This is preparation. Your body is being introduced to the idea that it will be pushed far past comfort and expected to keep going anyway. One afternoon, you come upon your first real obstacle, a stretch of ground chewed into deep mud by recent rain. Wagons ahead are stuck, wheels sunk to the hubs. Men shout and strain, oxen bellow, muscles trembling. You stop and wait because there is nothing else to do. You watch a wheel snap under the pressure, the crack loud and final. The sound ripples through the line like a warning.
The wagon's owner stands still for a long moment, staring at the brake as if it might fix itself. No one cheers. No one looks away. You all understand what that sound means. Delay, loss, danger.
When it is your turn, you lighten the load as best you can, shifting weight, tightening ropes. You take a breath and lead the oxen forward. The mud sucks at your boots, trying to pull them off your feet. The wagon groans. You push your shoulder against the wood, feeling the strain bite deep. For a moment, you think it won't move. Then it does, inch by inch, the wheels tearing free with wet, obscene sounds. When you finally clear the mud, your arms are shaking, your heart hammers. You do not feel proud, you feel lucky. Luck is thin comfort, but you take it anyway. That night, as you sit by the fire, you think about how close failure already came, how little it took. You imagine worse ground, deeper water, colder nights. The trail has not hurt you badly yet, but it has shown you its teeth. You stare into the flames and see not warmth, but consumption, wood turning to ash, fuel vanishing. You realize this journey will not be marked by grand moments, but by small erosions. Strength wearing down, supplies shrinking, certainty dissolving. When you lie down, the wind picks up, rattling canvas and carrying the distant howl of something alive and hungry. You pull your family close and listen, heart steady, jaw clenched. Tomorrow, you will walk again. Tomorrow, the line will stretch farther west. And somewhere ahead, unseen and patient, the real disasters are already waiting for you to catch up. You wake before the others again, your eyes opening into the gray space between night and morning. The air feels heavier than it should, damp and cold, pressing against your lungs. For a moment you lie still, listening. The trail has its own sounds at this hour. Canvas snapping softly in the breeze, an animal shifting its weight, the faint creak of a wagon settling deeper into the ground. Nothing is wrong yet. That word yet has already rooted itself deep in your thinking. You sit up slowly and feel how your body has changed in just a few days. Your back is tight, your legs stiff, your hands swollen from constant use. These are not injuries, just adjustments. The trail is reshaping you without asking permission. You rub your palms together and feel the roughness, the beginnings of calluses thickening in places that used to be soft. You pull on your boots and stand, bracing yourself against the wood. The wood is cool, damp with dew. You wonder how long it will take before it never feels dry again. The land looks different at dawn. In daylight, the prairie spreads wide and almost gentle, but in this half-light it feels watchful. The grass moves even when there is no wind, shadows sliding in slow waves. You have the uncomfortable sense that the ground itself is paying attention, marking your passage. You tell yourself that is foolish, that land does not care, but the feeling does not go away. It settles low in your chest and stays there. As the camp wakes, you move through your routines without thinking. Fire, water, food. You ration without ceremony, breaking bread, counting strips of bacon, measuring beans with your eyes. You notice how quickly the supply barrels seem smaller. You know this is partly illusion, that your fear is exaggerating the loss, but you also know that, illusion or not, the food is not growing back. Every morning begins with subtraction.
When you start moving again, the trail tightens. The wagons fall into a quieter order, spaced just far enough apart to avoid collisions, close enough that you can see the fatigue in the people ahead of you. The dust rises early today, thick and fine, clinging to sweat and turning every breath gritty. You pull your hat lower and keep walking. You have learned that complaining wastes energy. Energy is now a form of currency. The prairie begins to show its teeth in subtle ways. The ground looks solid until it isn't. Your foot sinks into a hidden pocket of soft earth, wrenching your ankle. Pain flares sharp and immediate. You bite it back and keep moving, testing your weight carefully until the joint settles into a dull ache. You know better than to stop unless you must.
Stopping lets pain speak too loudly. You file the injury away in your mind, another weakness added to the list. You start noticing how the trail is lined, not just with graves, but with debris, broken furniture, cracked crates, a stove abandoned on its side, pieces of wagons stripped for parts. These are not accidents, they are decisions made under pressure. You understand them instinctively. Every discarded object represents a calculation that went badly, weight versus necessity, hope versus reality. You imagine yourself leaving something behind one day, standing over it, knowing you will never see it again. The thought tightens your jaw. By mid-morning, the sun is already unforgiving. The heat presses down, flattening the land and the people alike. The sky is a hard, pale blue, empty of clouds, empty of mercy. You watch heat shimmer above the ground, bending the horizon. The farther you look, the less real everything becomes. You blink hard and keep your eyes low. You have learned that staring too far ahead invites thoughts you cannot afford. Someone collapses ahead of you, not dramatically, just a man dropping to one knee, then both. The wagon stops. Everything stops. You watch as others move in, lifting him, laying him in the shade of a wagon. His face is gray, slick with sweat. You cannot hear what is said, and you do not need to. Heat, exhaustion, illness, it hardly matters which. The result is the same. Delay, risk, vulnerability. After a while, the line moves again. The man is placed in the wagon. The trail does not wait. You feel something shift in you as you pass, a hardening, a quiet acceptance. You tell yourself it is not cruelty, it is necessity. Still, the thought stays with you as you walk. How quickly the trail teaches you to step around suffering instead of into it. The land begins to change as the day wears on. The grass thins, replaced by low scrub and patches of bare earth. Rocks emerge, sharp and unforgiving. You hear the sound before you see it, the dull crack of wood under strain. A wagon wheel splinters somewhere behind you. The noise carries, echoing in your chest. You do not turn around. You already know what it looks like. Men crouched in dust, hands moving fast, faces tight with urgency. You say a silent prayer that it is not yours. You hate yourself a little for that.
At the midday halt, the mood is different, quieter, heavier. People eat without talking much. The novelty of the journey is gone now, burned away by sun and sweat. You sit in the thin shade of your wagon and chew slowly. The food tastes flat, but you eat it anyway. You watch your children. They are learning too. They speak less. They move more carefully. Childhood is being stripped from them piece by piece, not by violence, but by routine. You notice a smell drifting through camp that wasn't there before. Sweet and wrong. It takes you a moment to place it. Rot. Not from food, from something larger. You follow it with your eyes and see the carcass of an ox downwind, bloated and dark, legs stiff. Flies swarm it in a thick black cloud. The animal lies close to the trail, too close. Someone didn't have the strength to drag it farther away. You turn your children's faces gently, steering their attention elsewhere. The image burns itself into your mind anyway. This is what happens when strength runs out. The afternoon stretches long and brutal. The sun does not move fast enough. Your shirt is stiff with dried sweat. Your lips crack. Your tongue feels thick in your mouth. You drink again, reluctantly, feeling the water level drop with a small, sharp pang of anxiety. You begin to understand how thirst changes people, how it narrows the world to a single need. You wonder how you will feel when water becomes harder to find. As the trail bends slightly north, a wind picks up. At first, it feels like relief, cooling your skin. Then it strengthens, carrying dust with it. The dust stings your eyes, coats your teeth, fills your nose. Breathing becomes work.
You wrap a cloth over your mouth and keep going, head down. Around you, the line of wagons dissolves into ghost shapes, half seen through the haze. The world shrinks to a few feet in front of you. You focus on your boots, the rhythm of your steps, the sound of the wheels. Anything else feels dangerous. When the wind finally dies, it leaves behind a silence that feels too large. The land stretches empty and exposed. You feel like an insect crawling across a plate. There's nowhere to hide, nowhere to stop unseen. The realization sits heavy in your chest. Out here, you are always visible, to weather, to illness, to chance. That night's camp is set near a low rise, the ground uneven and hard. Fires are fewer, fuel is already being conserved. You sit with your family as darkness settles, the cold creeping back in fast. The stars appear one by one, sharp and unblinking. You feel watched again, not by anything alive, but by the weight of distance and time. This trail has been walked before. It will be walked again. You are just another set of footprints, another brief disturbance. As you lie down, a sound cuts through the quiet, a long, distant howl. It raises the hair on your arms. Wolves, most likely. You know they will not attack the camp, not yet, but the sound carries something else with it, a reminder that you are no longer surrounded by fences and laws. Out here, life is measured by teeth and endurance.
You pull your coat tighter and stare into the dark. Your mind drifts, despite your efforts. You think of the graves you passed today, of the broken wagons, of the man who collapsed. You think of the river you crossed days ago and the larger ones still waiting. You feel the trail stretching ahead of you, long and patient, already counting your mistakes. Sleep comes in shallow waves. You dream of walking and never stopping, of wheels turning without sound, of land rolling endlessly beneath your feet. When you wake, heart pounding, you're not sure why. Nothing has happened. That is what frightens you most. The trail does not need drama to wear you down. It only needs time. By morning, you understand something you did not before. The trail is not just a path, it is an observer. It notices who rushes and who hesitates. It notices who wastes strength and who saves it. It notices who breaks first. You feel its attention on you now, quiet and constant. And as you rise to face another day, you know deep in your bones that it is only waiting. You reach the river by late morning, and before you see it, you feel it. The air changes first. It grows cooler, heavier, carrying the smell of wet earth and rot. The line of wagons slows without anyone needing to say why. People begin to walk ahead, craning their necks, rising onto their toes as if height might soften what waits for them. You feel your pace change, your steps shortening. Some part of you already knows this place matters. Then the land opens and the river is there. It is wider than you expected, brown, swollen, moving with a steady, unbroken force that makes your stomach tighten. It does not rush or roar. It slides, thick and confident, as if it has been doing this forever and will keep doing it long after you are gone. The surface is broken with slow ripples and hidden currents, patterns that mean nothing to you but everything to the water. The banks are trampled and torn, turned to slick mud by hundreds of hooves and boots. The smell is strong here, mud, manure, wet wood, and something sour underneath, the scent of things that stayed too long in water. You stop with the others and stare. No one speaks at first. This is not a crossing you rush into. This is a place where the trail demands payment. Men move forward to test the depth, stepping carefully, long poles probing ahead of them. You watch their faces closely. You see how their jaws tighten when the ground drops away faster than expected. You see how one man stumbles, catches himself, and laughs too loudly when he regains his footing. You do not laugh. You watch the waterline creep up their legs. You imagine it doing the same to you. You bring your family close and make them stay back. You do not want them near the edge yet. You do not want them hearing everything. But sound carries. They hear the shouts when a wagon ahead lurches too far to one side. They hear the sharp crack when a poorly tied load shifts. They hear the animal panic when its feet lose purchase. The river takes its first offering before noon. It happens quickly. A wagon enters too far downstream, angled wrong. The current catches the broadside and pushes. The oxen strain, their hooves sliding in the mud. Someone yells. The wagon tilts. Barrels break loose, splashing into the water one by one. The sound is dull and final, like doors slamming shut. A sack bursts, flour blooming white on the surface for a moment before dissolving into nothing. The wagon does not overturn completely, but it comes close enough that everyone feels it in their bones. When it finally reaches the far bank, it is lighter, poorer, stripped. The people with it looked stunned, as if they have been robbed in full daylight and no one could stop it.
You swallow hard. You count your own barrels without looking at them. You think of rope. You think of angles. You think of weight. You think of the simple truth that the river does not care how careful you are. The weight stretches. Wagons go one at a time. Each crossing is its own small drama, watched by everyone else because watching feels like preparation. You see a man step into a hole and vanish to his chest in an instant, arms flailing as he claws his way back. You see an ox stumble and go down hard, water surging over its flank. It gets up again, but slower, shaken. You begin to smell fear strongly now. It sharpens the air. When your turn comes, your mouth feels dry despite the damp. You walk your wagon to the edge and stop. You stand there longer than necessary, studying the water, pretending you can read it. You tighten ropes again, even though you already tightened them. You shift weight, even though there is nowhere better to put it. You check the canvas and imagine it ballooning with water, dragging everything down. You breathe through your nose and try to steady your hands. You unhitch nothing. You cannot afford to. You line the wagon as straight as you can, upstream enough to allow for drift. You speak to the oxen softly, steady pressure on the lead rope. They step forward, hooves sinking into the mud. The water reaches their ankles, then their knees. You step in beside them, boots filling instantly, cold biting up your legs like teeth. The shock steals your breath for a moment. You force yourself not to gasp. The wagon wheels enter the river, and the current makes itself known immediately. You feel it tug at your legs, not violently, just insistently, as if testing you. The sound changes here. The creak of the wagon deepens, strained. The water slaps against the boards. You keep your eyes forward. You do not look at the far bank yet. You focus on the oxen's shoulders, on the steady pull of their bodies. Halfway in, the river deepens without warning. Your foot slips into a hole and your stomach jumps. You catch yourself, heart pounding, and plant your feet wider. The water is at your thighs now, pushing harder. You can feel it curling around your knees, trying to fold them. The wagon lurches as the right wheel drops. The load shifts with a heavy thump under the canvas. Your breath comes fast and shallow. Then something goes wrong. You hear it before you see it, a sharp, ugly sound as one of the ropes snaps under the strain. The noise cuts through everything. The barrel it held breaks free and slams into the side of the wagon, then tumbles into the water. It floats for a second, ridiculous and hopeful, before the current grabs it and spins it away. You reach without thinking, your arm plunging into the cold, but the river is stronger than reflex. The barrel is gone.
Another rope gives, then another. The load shifts again, harder this time, and the wagon tilts just enough that panic surges up your spine. The oxen stumble, one slipping sideways. The yoke jerks. The wagon groans, a deep, tortured sound that feels like it comes from your own chest. The water is at your waist now, tearing at your clothes, dragging against your legs.
You hear shouting, distant and distorted. Someone is yelling instructions. Someone else is screaming a name. You cannot tell which is meant for you. You taste metal in your mouth. You think of your family in the wagon, the way the children looked at the river with wide eyes. You think of how little time there would be if the wagon rolled. Another crate breaks loose and smashes into the water. You watch it crack open, spilling its contents, dry goods, tools, before the river swallows them. Each splash feels like a blow. You do not have time to mourn. You lean into the wagon with your shoulder, pushing back against the tilt, muscles screaming. You pull on the lead rope with everything you have left, your boots sliding in the mud. For a moment, it feels like the river might win. Then, inch by brutal inch, the wagon shifts. The oxen find firmer ground and surge forward. The tilt lessens. The water drops back to your thighs. You gasp, lungs burning, and force yourself to keep moving. You do not stop until the wheels grind onto the far bank, mud sucking at them one last time before releasing its grip. When you finally stand on dry ground, your legs shake so badly you have to brace yourself against the wagon. Your clothes are soaked and heavy. Your hands are numb. Your heart hammers like it is trying to break free. For a long moment, you can do nothing but breathe. Then you look. The damage is worse than you hoped. Several barrels are gone. A crate is missing entirely. The canvas sags, waterlogged in places. Mud coats everything. You do not need to count to know the loss is serious. You close your eyes briefly, feeling something hollow open up in your chest. Those supplies were time. They were safety. They were days you no longer have. You turn to check the river again, and that is when you see the child. It is not yours. That is the first thing you register, with a rush of relief so sharp it makes you feel sick. The child belongs to the family that crossed just ahead of you. You see adults clustered on the far bank, moving fast, frantic. You see one woman drop to her knees, clawing at the mud. You follow their gaze to the water, and your stomach drops. The river is carrying something small downstream. There is shouting now, raw and broken. Men run along the bank, splashing in after it, but the current is faster than legs. The shape disappears beneath the surface once, then comes up again farther down, turning slowly. The distance grows. Someone wades in too far and nearly goes under themselves before being dragged back.
It is over quickly, too quickly to feel real. When the body is finally pulled from the water downstream, it is limp and pale, clothes dark and heavy. You look away before you can see the face. You hear the sounds anyway. You hear grief without words, the kind that tears itself out of the body. You feel your own throat tighten, your chest ache. Your children are silent. They have seen enough to understand what happened even if they do not fully grasp it. No one speaks much after that. The burial is shallow and hurried. The ground near the river is soft, but no one wants to linger. A marker is placed, a name scratched into wood that will not last long against weather and time. You stand with your hat in your hands and stare at the fresh earth. You feel the weight of what you witnessed settle into you. This is not a story you will tell lightly. This is an image that will surface in your mind without warning, for years. When you return to your wagon, the work resumes because it has to. Wet supplies are salvaged where possible. Mud is scraped away. Losses are counted in silence. You do not let yourself dwell on the child, not because you do not care, but because you cannot afford to break here. You have your own family to protect. You compartmentalize the grief and push it down, knowing it will resurface later, at night, when the trail is quiet. Camp that evening is subdued. Fires are small and few. People sit close to their wagons, speaking in low voices or not at all. The river murmurs nearby, unchanged, indifferent. You eat less than usual, appetite gone. You wrap yourself in a blanket that smells faintly of damp and stare into the darkness. You replay the crossing again and again in your mind, the snapped rope, the shifting load, the barrel spinning away. You realize how narrow the margin was,
How easily the river could have taken more, taken you, taken your family. The thought makes your hands tremble. As night deepens, the cold creeps back in, sharper near the water. You pull your children close and listen to them breathe. Each breath is a fragile thing now. You understand something you did not before today. The trail does not just wear you down slowly. Sometimes it strikes hard and sudden, without warning, and leaves you standing in the aftermath, forced to keep going anyway. You lie awake long after the camp has gone quiet, the sound of the river filling your ears. It no longer sounds neutral. It sounds like a warning that will follow you west. And as you stare into the dark, you know the journey has changed. The illusion of control has been stripped away. From here on, survival will be thinner, meaner, and far less forgiving. The trail has taken its first true payment, and it will not be the last.
You wake with hunger already inside you, not as a sharp pain, but as a low, hollow pressure that makes your body feel unfinished. It is the first thing you notice, even before the cold or the stiffness in your joints. Your stomach feels empty in a way sleep does not fix. You lie still for a moment, listening to the camp breathe around you, and you understand that something has shifted. The river did not just take supplies, it changed the math. Morning comes gray and thin. The light looks weak, as if it has traveled too far to reach you. You sit up and feel how your body protests now, slower to obey than it was days ago. Every movement costs more. You tell yourself this is temporary, that your strength will return once the routine settles. You have already begun lying to yourself in small, necessary ways. You open the barrel and count again, though you counted last night. Flour lower than it should be, bacon lighter, beans fewer. You do the numbers quietly in your head, careful not to let your face show anything. You know exactly how many days of food you lost to the river. You know what that means if nothing else changes. Something will have to give. You reduce the portions before anyone asks. There is no announcement, no explanation. You simply serve less. You tear smaller pieces of bread. You scoop fewer beans. You hand your children their food first and watch their faces closely. They notice. Children always notice. One of them hesitates, looking at their portion as if expecting more to appear. You feel something twist in your chest, tight and ugly. You keep your expression neutral. You eat last, and you eat the least. The food does not satisfy. It barely registers. It sits in your stomach like a reminder rather than a solution. When you stand, the hunger comes with you. It clings. It follows. You realize with a dull sense of alarm that hunger is not an emergency anymore. It is becoming a condition. The trail pulls you forward again, indifferent to your calculations. The land rolls on, mile after mile, the same grass, the same sky, the same unbroken horizon. The monotony is exhausting. There is nothing to distract you from the growing weakness in your body. Your legs feel heavier sooner. Your breath comes a little faster. You find yourself swallowing more often, as if your body expects food to appear if you prepare for it. You begin to notice smells more intensely. The faint grease from another wagon's breakfast makes your mouth water painfully. The scent of dried meat carried on the wind pulls your attention like a hook. You hate this about yourself, the way hunger sharpens into something almost animal. You keep your eyes forward and your hands busy. By midday, the heat returns, pressing down hard. Hunger and heat combine into a slow drain that makes the world feel slightly unreal. Your head feels light. When you stand still too long, a faint ringing fills your ears. You adjust your pace, careful not to push too hard. Injury now would be disastrous. Weakness is dangerous, but recklessness is worse.
At the halt, you sit in the shade and drink a small amount of water. The water tastes flat, lifeless. It does nothing for the hunger. You watch others eat. Some still have enough to cook properly. Stews bubbling, meat sizzling faintly. You smell it and feel your jaw tighten. You do not stare. Staring would feel like begging. Conversation is thinner now. People speak less.
conserve words the way they conserve supplies. You hear talk of hunting ahead, of buffalo sightings, of the possibility of trading. Hope clings to these rumors like a lifeline. You listen without comment. You have learned that promises on the trail are often just another way to pass time. As you walk again, the hunger changes character. It is no longer just emptiness. It becomes a constant gnawing sensation, as if something inside you is slowly chewing its way outward. Your thoughts begin to circle food without permission. You imagine bread, thick, soft, still warm. You imagine meat with fat that runs down your fingers. These thoughts intrude while you walk, while you watch the trail, while you check the wagon. You push them away, but they come back stronger. By late afternoon, you feel the first real weakness. Your hands shake slightly when you tighten a strap. Your legs ache in a deeper way, not muscle fatigue, but something closer to depletion. You recognize it with a quiet dread. You have felt this before, long ago, during a bad winter. You know where it leads if it is not corrected. You make another decision without announcing it. That night, you skip part of your meal entirely. You tell yourself you are not hungry. The lie tastes bitter. You chew slowly, letting your children believe everything is normal. Your wife watches you from the corner of her eye. She knows. She does not say anything. Silence has become its own language between you. Sleep is harder now. Hunger keeps you half awake, a low ache that never quite lets go. You dream of food in broken fragments, tables you cannot reach, meals that vanish when you touch them. You wake with your stomach clenched and your mouth dry. The days stack on top of each other, each one taking a little more. The portions grow smaller again, then smaller still. You begin to feel cold even when the sun is high. Your hands are slower, your reactions dull. You have to think harder about things that once came naturally. Knots, balance, pacing. It frightens you more than you let on. You notice it in others too. Faces grow gaunter, movements slow, tempers shorten. Small disagreements flare and die quickly, burned out by exhaustion. You hear raised voices one afternoon over a piece of lost bacon. The argument ends not with resolution, but with silence and shame. Hunting becomes a daily topic. Men talk about breaking off from the line, trying their luck. You consider it carefully. Hunting costs time and energy, both of which are already scarce. Ammunition is finite. Missing a shot would be more than disappointing, it would be wasteful. Still, the thought of fresh meat begins to outweigh the risks.
One evening, you hear the crack of a rifle in the distance, then another. The sound carries far in the open land. You feel a surge of hope so sharp it almost hurts. When the hunters return hours later, dragging a thin antelope carcass between them, the camp stirs with a quiet excitement that borders on desperation. Meat is divided. Portions are small. Arguments simmer just under the surface. When you receive your share, it feels lighter than it should. You say nothing. The meat helps, briefly. It gives you a day where your legs feel slightly stronger, your head a little clearer. Then it is gone. The hunger returns, worse for having been quieted. Your body feels betrayed, as if it remembers what it is missing. You begin to feel strange sensations at the edges of your awareness, moments where the world seems to tilt slightly, where sounds feel too loud or too distant. You chalk it up to fatigue. You do not want to consider other explanations. At night, when the wind moves through the grass, you sometimes think you hear voices in it, your name spoken softly. You tell yourself it is nothing. You do not mention it. One afternoon, while walking beside the wagon, you suddenly smell bread so strongly you stop short. The smell is vivid, undeniable, rich and warm. Your mouth fills with saliva. You look around, confused, searching for the source. There is nothing, just dust and grass and wagons. The smell fades slowly,
leaving behind a hollow ache that makes your vision blur for a moment. That night you do not sleep much. Your thoughts race, darting from one worry to another. You calculate distances again, obsessively. You try to remember the last solid meal you ate. You try not to think about how much farther you still have to go. The trail does not ease. If anything, it grows less forgiving. The ground turns rougher, the days longer. You feel your reserves draining steadily. You know you cannot keep giving up your portions forever. Your body is not infinite. At the same time, the thought of your children eating less than they already are makes your chest tighten painfully. You catch your reflection one morning in a tin plate. Your face looks sharper, cheekbones more pronounced. Your eyes look larger, darker. For a moment you do not recognize yourself. The man staring back looks older, worn thin by something deeper than travel. By the end of the week, hunger is no longer just a physical sensation. It is a presence. It colors your thoughts, your decisions, your moods. It makes patience harder. It makes fear louder. It narrows your world until survival feels like the only meaningful concept left. As you walk that evening, the sun sinking low and red behind you, you realize with a quiet certainty that this is only the beginning. The trail has not starved you yet. It has merely introduced itself, and somewhere ahead, unseen and patient, it is already preparing to take more.
You wake before dawn with your heart racing, convinced someone has called your name. The sound is still in your ears when you sit up, low, urgent, unmistakable. You listen hard, holding your breath. There is nothing. Just the wind sliding through grass, the soft shift of canvas, an animal snorting in its sleep. You tell yourself it was a dream. You have been tired before. This is what tired does. Still, the unease lingers, a thin film over your thoughts that does not wipe away. Your body feels wrong this morning. Not injured, not sick in any single place, just off. Your head is heavy, as if filled with damp wool. When you stand, the ground seems to tilt for half a second before settling. You wait it out, one hand on the wagon, until the feeling passes. You do not mention it. You have learned that naming weakness gives it power. The hunger is still there, but it has changed. It no longer feels sharp. It feels distant, like something happening to someone else. That worries you more than pain ever did. Pain demands attention. This numbness does not. It simply spreads. You go through the morning routine on instinct alone. Fire, water, food, what little there is. You tear bread into smaller pieces again, so small they barely feel real in your hands. You give them away and feel nothing. No pride, no pain. Just a quiet, hollow acceptance. When you eat, the taste barely registers. It is texture without meaning. The trail moves, and you move with it, one step at a time. The world feels flatter today, as if depth has been stripped away. Sounds reach you a moment too late. The creak of the wagon feels disconnected from the motion of its wheels. You focus hard on your footing, afraid that if you let your attention drift even briefly, you will stumble and not recover. The land stretches endlessly, and for the first time, it does not feel real. The grass looks painted on, the sky too smooth. Heat shimmers ahead, bending the horizon into shapes that shift when you stare too long. You know what mirages are. You have heard men talk about them. Still, when you see what looks like water glinting in the distance, your mouth fills with saliva before your reason catches up. You shake your head and keep walking. As the sun climbs, the feeling worsens. Your thoughts begin to slide out of order, like tools dumped loose into a box. Simple tasks take longer. You forget what you were doing halfway through doing it. You tie a knot, then retie it, unsure if you did it right the first time. You catch yourself staring at nothing, your feet moving on habit alone. At some point,
You become aware of a presence walking beside you. It does not startle you. That is the strange part. It feels natural, expected. You glance sideways and see a man keeping pace with you, just at the edge of your vision. He wears clothes that look familiar, too familiar. The cut of the coat, the way it hangs from the shoulders. You cannot quite see his face, but you know, without knowing how, that if you turn fully toward him, he will be gone.
So you do not turn. You walk and listen, half expecting him to speak. He does not. He simply stays there, matching your stride, silent and patient. After a while, you realize you cannot hear his footsteps. The ground makes no sound beneath him at all. When you finally blink hard and look again, he is gone. Your heart pounds then, delayed fear rushing in all at once. You stop walking, forcing yourself to take stock of what is real. The wagon is there. The oxen are there. The line of emigrants stretches ahead and behind you. No one else seems disturbed. No one has noticed anything out of place. You tell yourself it was exhaustion, hunger, heat. You have heard of this happening to men on the trail. You tell yourself that knowing this makes it harmless. The rest of the morning passes in fragments. You remember walking. You remember stopping. You remember the sound of a wheel cracking somewhere ahead. But the moments between blur, slipping away as soon as they happen. You begin to fear your own mind more than the land. At the midday halt, you sit heavily in the shade and drink water that tastes faintly sweet, too sweet. You pull the cup away and stare into it, suspicious. The water looks normal. You drink again, slower this time. The taste fades. You wonder if it was ever there at all. You watch the camp with a strange detachment, as if you are no longer fully inside your body. People move like figures in a play you have already seen. Their faces seem exaggerated, eyes too large, mouths too wide when they speak. A man laughs nearby, and the sound grates on you, sharp and wrong, like metal scraping stone. You feel suddenly certain that something terrible is about to happen. The certainty has no source, it simply is. It presses against your ribs, makes it hard to breathe. You scan the camp, searching for danger, loose animals, fire too close to canvas, raised voices, but everything appears ordinary. The feeling does not go away. When the line starts moving again, you are slow to rise. Your legs feel weak, unreliable. You push yourself upright and nearly lose your balance. Your wife steadies you without a word. Her hand lingers a moment longer than necessary. You know she feels it too now, whatever is happening to you. You avoid her eyes. The afternoon sun beats down relentlessly. Heat and hunger blur together until you cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. The land hums faintly, a low vibration you feel more than you hear. It sets your teeth on edge. You start counting your steps again, not for distance, but to keep your thoughts anchored. 1, 2, 3. The numbers slip sometimes, skipping ahead without your permission. Then you hear singing. It is faint at first, barely more than a suggestion of sound carried on the wind. A woman's voice, low and steady, singing something slow and familiar. A lullaby. Your chest tightens painfully. You recognize the melody, though you cannot place where from. It feels old, safe. You turn your head slightly, trying to catch more of it. The sound grows clearer the more you listen. You slow without meaning to, drifting toward it. The song seems to come from just off the trail, somewhere in the tall grass. You imagine a woman standing there, waiting. The thought feels comforting, like rest. You take a step toward the sound. Your boot catches on a root, and you stumble hard, nearly going down. The shock snaps something back into place. The singing cuts off abruptly, as if it were never there at all. You stand there breathing hard, heart hammering, surrounded by nothing but grass and dust and wagons. Cold fear settles over you then, heavy and sobering.
You understand now that your mind cannot be trusted the way it once could. You understand that this is dangerous in a way no river or broken wheel ever was. The rest of the day is an exercise in vigilance. You force yourself to stay close to the wagon. You force yourself to check your actions aloud in your head. Lift, step, pull, tie. You do not let your thoughts wander. When they try, you clamp down hard. Even so, things slip through. You see shapes moving in the grass that vanish when you focus on them. You hear your name spoken softly, always just behind you. You feel hands brush your sleeve when no one is there. Each time, you tell yourself the same thing. It is hunger. It is exhaustion. It will pass. By evening, your head aches dully, a pressure behind your eyes that makes light painful. Camp is set in silence. Fires burn low. People are too tired to talk. You eat your portion without tasting it and lie down, staring up at the darkening sky. The stars come out sharp and bright, too bright. They seem closer tonight, crowded together, pressing down on you. You feel suddenly small, unbearably small, as if the ground beneath you might open and swallow you without effort. As you lie there, the ground begins to move. Not violently, slowly, almost gently. You feel it rocking beneath you, like a boat on calm water. Panic flares, hot and immediate. You sit up, heart racing, expecting shouts, chaos, wagons tipping. Nothing has moved.
The ground is still. The wagons are still. The world is unchanged. You lower yourself back down carefully, afraid of triggering the sensation again. It does not stop. The rocking continues, subtle but undeniable. You close your eyes, hoping sleep will end it. Instead, images rise unbidden behind your eyelids. The river, the child's body turning in the water, barrels spinning away, faces you passed on the trail, hollow-eyed and silent. The images overlap and blur, looping without order. You cannot push them away. At some point, exhaustion drags you under. Your sleep is shallow and broken. You dream of walking beside yourself, watching your own back retreat endlessly ahead of you. You try to call out, but no sound comes. When you wake, your throat is dry and sore, as if you have been screaming. Morning comes too soon. The hallucinations do not leave with the dark. They linger at the edges of your vision, patient and quiet. You realize, with a slow creeping dread, that this is not a single bad day. This is a new phase of the journey. The trail has moved past hunger and into something deeper. It is no longer just taking from your body, it is reaching into your mind, loosening its grip on reality, testing how long you can tell the difference between what is there and what you need to believe is there. As you rise to face another day, the land stretching endlessly ahead, you understand that the greatest danger now walks with you, inside you, wearing your own thoughts like borrowed clothes. And you do not know how to leave it behind. You wake before dawn with the certainty that someone has spoken your name. It isn't a dream fading away as you open your eyes. It lingers, heavy and present, like a sound that is not finished echoing. You lie still, afraid that moving will break something fragile in your mind. The camp is quiet. Too quiet. Canvas breathes softly in the wind. An ox shifts its weight. Nothing else. No voice. No footsteps. You wait until your pulse slows, then sit up slowly, testing whether the world will hold. Your body feels unfamiliar, as if it belongs to someone you used to know. Your head is thick and pressurized, your thoughts wrapped in something damp and heavy. When you stand, the ground rolls beneath you for a brief, terrifying moment, like the deck of a riverboat. You grip the wagon hard until it passes. You do not tell anyone. You are learning that speaking these things aloud gives them weight, and weight is something you cannot afford. Hunger is still there, but it has dulled into something worse. It no longer demands, it erodes.
Your stomach feels hollow but distant, like the ache belongs to a man walking a few steps behind you. You move through the morning routine on memory alone: fire, water, food, each action performed without thought, without emotion. When you break the bread, your hands do it neatly, precisely. When you eat, you barely register the act. The food might as well be sawdust. The trail begins to move, and you move with it, pulled forward by habit rather than will. The world feels flattened today, stripped of depth. Sounds arrive late, muffled. The creak of the wagon feels disconnected from its motion, like the noise belongs to another object entirely. You focus on the oxen's backs, rising and falling, because focusing on anything else feels dangerous.
The land stretches wide and empty under a white, punishing sky. Heat shimmers across the prairie, bending the horizon into shapes that shift when you stare too long. You know better than to trust it. You have heard the stories. Still, when you see the glint of what looks like water far ahead, your mouth floods with saliva before your reason can intervene. The disappointment that follows feels physical, like a blow to the chest. Your thoughts begin to slip. Simple things require effort. You forget what you were doing halfway through doing it. You tie a knot and immediately untie it, unsure whether it was right. You catch yourself standing still while the line moves on, your feet locked in place, your mind blank. When you start walking again, it feels like resuming control of a body that wandered off without you. By mid-morning, you become aware of someone walking beside you. At first, it feels normal, comforting even. Companionship on the trail is rare, and the presence eases the pressure in your chest. You glance sideways and see a man matching your pace, just at the edge of your vision. His clothes look right, too right. The cut of his coat, the way it hangs from his shoulders. You cannot see his face clearly, but you are certain you would recognize it if you could. You do not turn fully toward him. You keep walking, aware on some deep level that if you look directly at him, he will vanish. He says nothing. He does not breathe loudly. You notice after a while that you cannot hear his footsteps at all. The ground makes no sound beneath him. The realization crawls up your spine slowly, like cold water. When you blink hard and look again, he is gone. Your heart stutters, then slams into a hard, panicked rhythm. You stop walking, forcing yourself to take inventory. Wagon, oxen, people ahead and behind you. Everything appears normal. No one else has reacted. No one has seen anything out of place. You tell yourself it was hunger, heat, exhaustion. You have heard of men seeing things on the trail. Knowing that does nothing to steady you. The rest of the morning fractures into pieces you cannot fully recall. You remember dust. You remember the sound of a wheel cracking somewhere ahead. You remember a woman crying softly behind you, though you cannot remember why. Time stretches and folds in on itself. You begin to fear that you are losing parts of the day without noticing. At the midday halt, you sit in the shade and drink water that tastes faintly sweet. Wrong. You freeze, staring into the cup. The water looks the same as always, cloudy, dull, lifeless. You take another sip. The sweetness is gone. You cannot tell whether it was ever there at all. The uncertainty unsettles you more than if it had remained. You watch the camp from a distance, even though you were sitting in its middle. People move like figures behind glass, their gestures exaggerated, their faces oddly distorted. A man laughs nearby, and the sound cuts too sharply through your head, making you flinch. It feels artificial, like something imitating laughter without understanding it. A certainty settles over you without warning. Something terrible is about to happen. There is no reason for it, no sign. The feeling simply exists, heavy and absolute. You scan the camp, searching for danger, loose animals, fires burning too close, raised voices, but everything appears ordinary. The certainty does not fade.
It presses against your ribs, making each breath feel shallow.
When the line begins moving again, you struggle to stand. Your legs feel unreliable, as if the instructions from your brain are arriving late. You stagger and are steadied by your wife's hand. She says nothing. Her grip lingers just long enough for you to know she felt it too. You avoid her eyes. You are afraid of what she might see in yours. The afternoon heat is relentless. Hunger and exhaustion blur together until you cannot tell where one ends and the other begins. The land seems to hum faintly, a vibration you feel more than hear. It sets your teeth on edge. To keep yourself anchored, you begin counting your steps again. 1, 2, 3. Sometimes the numbers skip. Sometimes they repeat. You start over each time. Then you hear singing. It drifts in on the wind, soft and low, almost lost beneath the sound of wheels and footsteps. A woman's voice, steady and calm, singing something slow and familiar. A lullaby. Your chest tightens painfully. You know the melody, though you cannot place it. It feels old, safe, like rest. You turn your head slightly, trying to hear more. The singing grows clearer the longer you listen. Without realizing it, you slow your pace. You drift toward the sound, away from the wagon. The song seems to come from just off the trail, hidden in the tall grass. You imagine a woman standing there, waiting, holding something warm in her arms. The thought makes your eyes sting. You take a step toward it. Your boot catches on a buried root and you stumble hard, nearly falling. The shock snaps something back into place. The singing cuts off instantly, as if it never existed. You stand there breathing hard, heart racing, surrounded by nothing but grass, dust, and the line of wagons moving on without you. Cold fear settles over you, heavy and sobering. You understand now that your mind cannot be trusted, not the way it once could. You understand how dangerous that is. The rest of the day becomes an exercise in control. You stay close to the wagon. You narrate your actions silently in your head. Step, pull, tie, lift, as if instruction might keep reality from slipping. You do not let your thoughts wander. When they try, you force them back. Still, things slip through. You see movement in the grass that vanishes when you focus on it. You hear your name spoken softly, always just behind you. You feel a brush against your sleeve when no one is there. Each time, you repeat the same explanation: hunger, heat, exhaustion. Each time, it convinces you a little less. That night, camp is quiet. Fires burn low. People are too tired to speak. You eat your portion without tasting it and lie back, staring at the darkening sky. The stars appear sharp and crowded, pressing down on you. They seem closer tonight, as if the sky itself is closing in. The ground begins to rock beneath you, not violently, gently, like a boat drifting on calm water. Panic flares through you, hot and immediate. You sit up, expecting chaos, shouts, wagons tipping, animals breaking loose. Nothing has moved. The world is unchanged. The rocking continues anyway, subtle and undeniable.
You lie back down, carefully, afraid that movement will make it worse. It does not stop. You close your eyes, hoping sleep will end it. Instead, images rise behind your eyelids without permission. The river, the child's body turning slowly in the water, barrels spinning away, faces you passed on the trail, hollow-eyed and silent. The images overlap and blur, repeating without order. You cannot push them away. Exhaustion finally drags you under. Your sleep is shallow and broken. You dream of walking beside yourself, watching your own back recede endlessly ahead. You try to call out, but no sound comes. When you wake, your throat is raw and dry, as if you have been shouting all night. Morning arrives, pale and unremarkable. The hallucinations do not fade with the light. They linger at the edges of your vision, patient and quiet. You understand, with a slow, creeping dread, that this was not a single bad day. This is a turning point. The trail has moved beyond hunger and into something deeper. It is no longer just taking from your body, it is reaching into your mind, loosening its grip on reality, testing how long you can tell the difference between what is there and what you need to believe is there. As you rise to face another day, the land stretching endlessly ahead, you realize the most dangerous thing on the trail now walks with you, inside you, wearing your own thoughts like borrowed clothes, and you do not know how to leave it behind. You wake to the sound of coughing that does not belong to the morning. It is deeper than the usual throat clearing, wetter, pulled up from somewhere low in the chest. The sound cuts through the camp before the light does, echoing between wagons, dragging you fully awake. You lie still and listen, already knowing this cough will not pass on its own. The air is cold and damp, clinging to your skin. Fog hangs low over the ground, turning the camp into a series of pale shapes and shadows. The coughing comes again, followed by a thin, rattling breath. You sit up slowly, joints stiff, head heavy, and look toward the sound. It is the man who has walked beside you for weeks now. Not a close friend, not someone you chose, just a presence that became familiar through proximity and shared hardship. You know the shape of his back, you know the rhythm of his walk, you know the way he tightens his harness straps twice before moving on. You realize, with a faint jolt of fear, that you have come to rely on the quiet reassurance of seeing him ahead of you each day. He is sitting hunched beside his wagon, one hand braced against the wheel, the other pressed to his chest. His shoulders rise and fall too quickly. His face is pale, slick with sweat despite the cold. When he coughs again, it bends him forward, wringing something out of him that sounds wet and wrong.
You do not rush to him. No one does. There is a moment, longer than feels decent, where everyone watches from a distance, measuring. Illness on the trail is not just tragedy, it is threat. Eventually, someone moves, then another. You stand and walk over, your legs heavy, your head swimming slightly. Up close, the smell hits you first, sour and sweet at the same time. Fever. His eyes flick toward you, unfocused, glassy. He tries to speak, but the attempt collapses into another coughing fit that leaves him gasping. You tell yourself it could be exhaustion, dust in the lungs, a chill from the river. You tell yourself these things because the alternative is worse. The day does not wait. Wagons must move. Distance must be covered. The man is helped into the back of his wagon, laid out on blankets that are already damp with sweat. His wife moves with sharp, frantic efficiency, hands trembling as she tries to organize what little she can do. You watch from a few steps away, feeling the familiar tightening in your chest. This is what it looks like when someone starts to fall behind. The line moves on slowly, reluctantly, as if aware something important has begun. You walk beside your wagon, but your attention keeps drifting back. You listen for the coughing. It does not stop. It worsens. Each time it comes, it feels closer, more urgent. By midday, the man can no longer sit up. His breathing is shallow and fast, chest fluttering like a trapped bird. His skin is hot when someone touches him, then suddenly clammy. Fever burns and breaks in waves. He mutters things that do not make sense, names, fragments of sentences, places that sound like home. His wife wipes his face and murmurs reassurance that sounds more like pleading. You recognize the signs now. Everyone does. Dysentery, pneumonia, cholera. It almost doesn't matter which. On the trail, sickness collapses into a single outcome often enough that distinctions lose meaning. The camp stops early that evening. No one says it outright, but you all know why. The man is worse, much worse. He no longer coughs as often because he no longer has the strength. Each breath is an effort. His eyes roll beneath closed lids. His wife has stopped wiping his face and simply holds his hand, her expression fixed in a way that makes your stomach turn. You sit with your family near your wagon, pretending to tend to your own business while listening to the sounds drifting from the sick man's camp. The wind carries everything: labored breathing,
whispered prayers, a soft, broken sob someone is trying not to let escape. You feel helpless in a way that is almost physical, like being pinned under weight you cannot shift. Night falls, cold and sharp. Fires are kept low. The darkness presses in close, thickened by the knowledge that something is ending nearby. You lie down, but do not sleep. You count breaths that are not your own. You listen as they grow farther apart.
Sometime before dawn, the breathing stops. There is no announcement, no dramatic moment, just a silence where a sound used to be. You know it immediately. Your body reacts before your mind does, a slow, sinking sensation spreading through your chest. You sit up and stare into the dark, listening hard, hoping to hear something, anything that proves you wrong. Nothing comes. At first light, people move quietly, carefully, as if loud motion might break what little remains. The man lies still in the wagon, eyes half open, face slack. His wife sits beside him, unmoving, her hand still wrapped around his. She does not cry, not yet. She looks emptied out, as if something vital has been scooped from her and taken away. There is no time for ceremony. The trail does not allow it. You all know what must be done. The ground nearby is hard-packed, but workable. Shovels are produced. Men step forward without speaking. You are one of them. Digging feels different this time. The earth resists, dense and stubborn, but that is not what slows you. It is the knowledge of who the hole is for. Each thrust of the shovel sends a dull jolt up your arms. The soil smells dry and mineral-rich, a smell that would mean fertility under other circumstances. Here, it just means finality. The hole is not deep. It cannot be. You all know that too. The trail has taught you to compromise even with death. The body is wrapped in a blanket that once kept him warm at night. His face is uncovered. His features already look wrong, flattened, drained of the small tensions that made him alive. You avoid looking too closely. You are afraid of what you might see, afraid it will lodge itself in your mind alongside the river and the child, and never leave. The wife stands when it is time. Someone supports her arm, but she barely seems to notice. When the body is lowered into the ground, a sound tears out of her that does not resemble anything you have heard before. It is raw and animal, and so full of loss that it makes your throat ache. You feel your eyes burn, but you force them dry. You cannot afford to unravel here. Dirt is shoveled back in. The sound of it hitting the blanket is soft, final. Someone places a rough marker at the head of the grave, the man's name scratched shallow into the wood. You know rain will erase it, sun will split it, time will take it the rest of the way. When it is over, people drift back to their wagons without speaking. The wife does not move. She remains by the grave long after the others leave, hands clenched at her sides, staring down at the earth as if expecting it to give him back.
The day resumes because it has to. You feel changed as you walk again, though nothing about the land is different. The sky is the same pale blue. The grass waves the same way. But the space beside the trail where the man used to walk is empty now, and you feel its absence like a missing limb. You catch yourself glancing ahead, expecting to see his back, his steady pace. Each time, the emptiness startles you anew. The hallucinations do not leave you today, but they change. They grow quieter, more insidious. You no longer see shapes clearly. Instead, you feel presences, gaps where people should be, a sense of being watched from just behind your shoulder. You do not turn. Hunger presses harder now, sharpened by grief. You skip more of your portion without remark. Your body feels weaker, slower to respond. The world feels heavier, as if gravity itself has increased slightly. You think of the man's coughing. You think of how quickly he went from walking to dying. You wonder how thin the line really is. That night, camp feels wrong. Too quiet in places, too loud in others. The absence has weight.
You lie down and stare into the dark, your mind replaying small details you never thought you would remember. The way the man adjusted his hat, the sound of his boots on gravel, the way he always nodded once before starting to walk. Sleep comes late and badly. You dream of digging, of shoveling earth endlessly, the hole never filling, the ground giving way beneath you. You wake with your hands clenched, nails biting into your palms. Morning arrives without comfort. The wife and her children are gone. They left before dawn, joined another train heading back east. You understand the decision immediately. You wonder, not for the first time, whether you will ever allow yourself to turn back, no matter the cost. As you resume the march west, the trail stretches ahead of you, long and indifferent. It has claimed another life and barely slowed. You feel something settle inside you, heavy and permanent, a new understanding. This is not a journey where everyone finishes. This is a journey that selects. You walk on, shoulders hunched, eyes forward, carrying the weight of one more grave behind you. The trail does not mark it. It does not pause. It simply waits for the next weakness, the next misstep, the next name to scratch into wood. And you know, with a cold clarity that settles deep in your bones, that it could be yours just as easily.
You wake with the taste of dirt in your mouth, and for a moment you are certain you have been buried. Your eyes open fast, heart hammering, and you suck in air that feels thin and cold. Canvas above you, gray light leaking in at the seams. Your wagon. You lie still until the panic drains away, leaving you hollow and trembling. The dream lingers anyway, hands clawing at soil, breath running out, the weight pressing down until thought itself collapsed. You sit up slowly and wipe your mouth with the back of your hand. It comes away dry. You cannot remember the last time you felt properly hydrated. The camp is already stirring, but it moves differently now. Quieter, more careful. The death has changed the shape of things. People avoid looking at one another too directly, as if eye contact might invite another loss. You notice the empty space where the other wagon used to be. The gap feels deliberate, like a missing tooth your tongue keeps returning to. You stand and feel your legs wobble slightly. The ground holds, but only just. You breathe through your nose and wait for the weakness to pass. It does not fully go. It settles instead, a constant low-grade tremor in your muscles, a reminder that you are running on borrowed fuel. Breakfast is almost nothing, a scrap of bread, a mouthful of beans. You divide it carefully, your hands steady despite the way your mind keeps drifting. You give more to your children again. You tell yourself they need it more. You tell yourself you can manage. The lie has become routine, polished smooth through repetition. As you eat, or pretend to, you feel eyes on you, not accusing, not pitying, assessing. Other fathers, other men doing the same calculations you are. Everyone knows who is skipping meals. Everyone knows what it means. Out here, sacrifice is visible. It shows in the hollows beneath eyes, in the way hands shake when lifting weight, in the way a man pauses too long before standing. The trail moves on, as it always does. You fall into your place beside the wagon, fingers brushing the wood for balance. The rhythm of walking is harder to find today. Your steps feel slightly out of sync, like you are always half a beat behind your own body. The sun climbs quickly, burning away the morning chill and replacing it with heat that feels heavier than before. You sweat almost immediately. The sweat smells sour, stale, like it has been waiting to come out. The land ahead looks endless and unforgiving. Low hills roll away in muted browns and yellows. The grass is thinner here, tougher. There is less to soften the ground, less to promise anything living. You realize you have stopped looking for beauty entirely. The land is no longer scenery, it is an obstacle. Your thoughts begin to drift again, sliding sideways without warning.
You find yourself thinking about food in strange, abstract ways. Not meals, not recipes. Weight, density. How much energy might be in a strip of leather? How long a man could live on boiled grass, on bark, on whatever could be chewed and swallowed. The thoughts disturb you because they arrive uninvited and do not leave easily.
By mid-morning, the headache returns, a dull pressure behind your eyes that pulses in time with your steps. Light feels too bright, sounds feel too close. The creak of your wagon is suddenly unbearable, each groan scraping against your nerves. You grit your teeth and keep walking. You notice a change in the people around you. Conversations are sharper now, edged with something dangerous. Someone accuses another of cutting ahead. Someone else snaps back. The argument dies quickly, smothered by exhaustion, but the tension lingers like a bad smell. Hunger does this. It strips away patience first. At a shallow stream, the line stops to water animals and refill buckets. The water is low and sluggish, dark with silt. You kneel and dip your hands in. The cold shocks you, sends a brief, painful clarity through your head. You drink carefully, slowly, forcing yourself to stop before you feel satisfied. Satisfaction is a luxury you no longer trust. As you stand, a thought crosses your mind so casually it takes a moment to register how wrong it is. You look at one of the weaker oxen nearby, ribs showing faintly beneath its hide, and you think about how much meat it would provide. The thought is not emotional, it is practical, immediate. You feel sick, not from the idea itself, but from how naturally it came. You walk away quickly, heart pounding, as if someone might have heard you think it. The afternoon is worse. The heat presses down, thick and relentless. The sky is an unbroken sheet of white blue, empty of clouds, empty of mercy. Your vision blurs at the edges. You blink hard, trying to clear it. The world sharpens, then dulls again. You realize you have been clenching your jaw for hours. Your teeth ache. Your mind starts playing tricks on you again, but subtler now. You do not see full figures. You see hints, a shape at the corner of your eye that might be a person, a movement in the grass that feels intentional. Each time you turn, there is nothing. You tell yourself you expected this. You tell yourself you can handle it. The reassurance feels thin. Then, without warning, a thought lands fully formed and solid in your mind. You cannot feed them all. The thought does not sound like fear. It sounds like fact. It sits there, heavy and undeniable, like a stone dropped into your chest. You keep walking, but your steps falter slightly. You focus on the oxen's backs, on the dust rising from their hooves, trying to outrow the idea. You cannot feed them all. You try to argue with it. You think of hunting, of trading, of better days ahead. The thought does not respond. It simply waits.
The next idea follows close behind, quieter, more poisonous. Someone will have to go hungry. Someone already is. You feel a coldness spread through you that has nothing to do with the heat. You think of your children's faces when you hand them food. You think of the way they chew more slowly now, as if trying to make it last. You think of your own body weakening day by day. The thought sharpens, takes shape. If you fall, they all fall. That one hits harder. You stumble and have to grab the wagon to steady yourself. Your breath comes fast. You feel suddenly exposed, as if the land itself is listening. You force yourself to breathe slowly, counting each inhale, each exhale, until the panic recedes enough for you to stand upright again. By the time camp is made that evening, you are exhausted in a way that sleep does not promise to fix. Your hands shake openly now. You hide them by keeping them busy, unhitching, checking straps, arranging what little food remains. Your wife watches you carefully. Her silence feels heavier than any accusation. Dinner is the smallest yet. You barely eat it all. The hunger has twisted into something else entirely, a restless, gnawing energy that makes it hard to sit still. You feel alert and dull at the same time.
your thoughts racing and dragging in equal measure. You lie back and stare at the sky, jaw clenched, listening to the sounds of camp settle around you. Someone nearby is crying quietly. You cannot tell who. The sound threads through the night, thin and fragile. No one goes to them. You understand why. Comfort costs energy. As darkness deepens, the cold creeps back in, sharp and sudden. You pull your coat tighter and still feel chilled. Your body no longer regulates itself properly. You shiver despite the heat that lingered all day. Your teeth chatter softly until you force them still. The thoughts return when you close your eyes. You see food everywhere. Not real food, symbols of it. Barrels, sacks, shapes wrapped in cloth. You imagine opening them, finding them full again, heavy and reassuring. In the dream, you eat until you are full, until the hunger fades into something manageable. The relief is so intense it almost hurts. Then the dream shifts. You are counting portions again. The numbers do not work. No matter how you arrange them, someone is left with nothing. The faces blur together, your family, the people from the train, the man you buried. But the feeling remains the same: pressure, urgency, the sense that a decision is required.
You wake with your heart racing, sweat cold on your skin. The camp is quiet, too quiet. You sit up and listen, half expecting something terrible to have happened while you slept. Nothing has. The world remains intact, indifferent. You realize then that the trail has pushed you into a place you never wanted to visit, a place where survival is no longer a shared goal, but a calculation, a place where love and responsibility pull in different directions. The thought that frightens you most comes last, sliding into your mind with terrible calm. If it comes to it, you will choose. Not because you want to, not because you are cruel, but because you are already doing it, every day, with smaller decisions, smaller sacrifices, skipped meals, quiet lies. You sit there in the dark, breathing shallowly, feeling the weight of that realization settle into you. This is the unthinkable you brushed against before. It is no longer theoretical. It is here, crouched just outside the firelight, waiting for the moment when circumstance gives it permission. When morning finally comes, pale and weak, you rise with the others. Your body feels fragile, as if held together by habit alone. The land stretches ahead, unchanged, patient. You take your place beside the wagon once more, hands steady through effort alone. You know now that hunger has done more than weaken you. It has begun to change how you think. And somewhere deep inside, beneath duty and fear and love, something colder has taken root, something willing to make decisions you once believed were impossible. The trail has not forced your hand yet, but it is teaching you how. You wake already exhausted, as if sleep has been nothing more than a brief pause in the same unbroken effort. Your body feels hollowed out, light in a way that makes you uneasy, as if too much of you has been burned away and nothing solid remains to take its place. When you sit up, the world tilts sharply, then settles into a slow, nauseating sway. You wait it out, breathing shallow and controlled until the worst of it passes. It never fully does. Morning comes without promise. The sky is a pale, washed-out gray, the kind that makes distance hard to judge. You move through the routine by instinct alone. Fire, water, food, or what passes for it now. The portions are almost symbolic. You hand them out carefully, watching your children eat, counting each swallow without meaning to. You take nothing for yourself, not because you decide to, but because the idea of eating feels abstract, unnecessary, like something that belongs to another version of you.
When you stand, your legs hesitate before obeying. They feel thin, unreliable. You grip the wagon and pull yourself upright, forcing strength into muscles that no longer respond willingly. The realization settles cold and heavy. You are no longer managing the decline. You are inside it. The line moves on, and you move with it, but the effort costs more than you have. Each step feels deliberate, chosen. The ground seems to push back against your boots, as if it resents being asked to support you. Your breath comes shallow and fast. You try to match it to your pace and fail. The world narrows to the space directly in front of you. Everything else fades. The land ahead rises gently, a long, shallow incline that would have meant nothing a week ago. Today, it looks like a wall. You start up it anyway, one foot after the other, your body complaining loudly in ways you can no longer ignore. Sweat breaks out across your skin despite the cool air. Your vision darkens at the edges, tunneling inward. Halfway up, your legs buckle. It happens without drama. One moment you are walking, the next you are on your knees, hands slamming into the dirt. The impact knocks the breath from your lungs in a sharp, panicked gasp. For a second, you cannot move. The ground smells dry and mineral, close and intimate. You feel its roughness against your palms and wonder dimly how you ended up there. Voices reach you from somewhere far away. Someone is calling out. Someone else is shouting for the line to stop. You try to push yourself up and fail. Your arms tremble violently, useless. Panic surges, hot and immediate, because this is it. This is the moment you have been dreading without naming. If you cannot stand, everything collapses. Hands grab your shoulders. Someone pulls. Someone else wedges an arm under yours. You are hauled upright, barely, your weight hanging heavy and awkward. The world spins wildly. You clamp your eyes shut and fight the urge to vomit. Your heart hammers erratically, skipping beats, then racing to make up for them. You are dragged to the side of the trail and lowered to the ground. The wagon rolls on past you, its wheels creaking, the sound slicing through you with a strange sense of finality. For a terrifying second, you think they are going to leave you, that the line will move on and you will be another shape in the grass, another cautionary marker for those behind. But the wagon stops. You hear your wife's voice, tight with fear, though the words blur together. You feel her hand on your face, then your shoulder, grounding and urgent. You try to speak, to reassure her, but your mouth does not cooperate. Your tongue feels thick, unresponsive. The effort leaves you dizzy and weak. You lie there staring at the sky while the camp reorganizes itself around you. The clouds drift slowly overhead, their edges soft and unreal. You think with a detached clarity that they look close enough to touch. You feel a strange calm settle over you, heavy and enveloping, like warm water. Someone presses a cup to your lips. Water spills into your mouth, cold and startling. You choke and cough, some of it running down your chin. The coughing hurts, sharp and deep, and when it passes, you are left shaking. The water helps, but only a little. It does not reach the place that needs it most. Time stretches. You cannot tell how long you lie there. Minutes? An hour? The sun shifts imperceptibly. You drift in and out, awareness fading and returning in uneven waves. You hear fragments of conversation, worried, urgent, low. You catch words like weak, too thin, can't go on like this. Each one lands heavily, pressing you deeper into the dirt. At some point, you realize you cannot feel your hands properly. They are numb, tingling, as if they belong to someone else. You lift one slowly into your field of view and watch it shake uncontrollably. The sight fills you with a quiet, profound terror. This is not something you can will yourself through. As the afternoon wears on, the decision becomes unavoidable. You cannot walk, not today, maybe not tomorrow. The trail does not stop for weakness, but sometimes it slows. A small cluster of wagons pulls off to make camp early. You are lifted, carefully, awkwardly, and laid in the back of your own wagon on folded blankets that smell of damp and old sweat. Being inside the wagon during the day feels wrong. The light is dim, the air is stale. Every jolt of movement sends a fresh wave of nausea through you. You focus on your breathing, shallow and controlled, afraid that if you let yourself slip too far, you will not come back. Your family moves around you, their faces tense and drawn. Your children watch you with wide, frightened eyes. You have never seen them look at you this way before, not as protector, not as authority, but as something fragile. The look hurts more than any physical pain. You turn your face slightly away, ashamed of what you have become. As the evening approaches, the weakness deepens. You feel cold even when wrapped in blankets. Your teeth chatter uncontrollably. Your mind drifts, slipping its hold on the present. Images intrude without warning. Home, the river, the grave, endless walking. They overlap and blur, looping in no particular order. You hear your name spoken again, softly, insistently. This time, you cannot tell if it is real. You answer anyway, or try to. The sound that leaves your mouth is thin and broken. You barely recognize it as your own. Night falls fully, and the world narrows to darkness and sensation. The pain in your chest grows, a tightness that makes each breath an effort. You feel as if you were breathing through cloth. Panic flares, then fades, replaced by a strange, heavy calm. You think, distantly, that this is what surrender feels like.
You drift in and out of consciousness. In one moment you are certain you are dying. In the next, the thought seems unimportant, almost irrelevant. You become acutely aware of your heartbeat, erratic and loud in your ears. You count the beats without knowing why. At some point in the night, someone shakes you gently, urgently. You open your eyes to a face hovering above you, shadowed and worried. A lantern casts flickering light across the wagon interior. Words are spoken, but they come to you distorted, as if underwater. You catch only the tone, fear held barely in check. You realize then, with a slow, sinking clarity, that you have reached the edge. Not metaphorically, physically. Your body has reached the limit of what it can give. There is no reserve left to draw on, no hidden strength waiting to be summoned. You are balanced on a narrow line between continuing and stopping altogether. As the night stretches on, you lie there, listening to the sounds of camp. Soft footsteps, murmured voices, the distant lowing of animals. Each sound feels far away. You feel yourself receding, as if the world is slowly pulling back from you, leaving you alone in a shrinking space. You think of your children. You think of their faces, their small hands. You think of the promise you made without words when you put them in the wagon and turned west. The thought cuts through the fog, sharp and painful. You cling to it. You do not know if it will be enough. The trail has brought you here, to this thin, dangerous edge where effort no longer matters and desire alone cannot move your limbs. Whether you cross back from it or fall away entirely will not be decided by courage. It will be decided by what comes next. You wake to voices that do not belong to your family. At first, you think you are still drifting inside one of your fevered half-dreams. The sounds overlap strangely. Too many accents, too many unfamiliar rhythms. You lie still, eyes closed, listening. Boots scuff the ground outside the wagon. Someone clears their throat. Metal clinks softly. The air smells different, not just dust and sickness, but something else layered over it. Coffee, freshly boiled. The scent hits you with such force that your stomach tightens painfully. You open your eyes. Light spills through the canvas flap in a way that feels wrong for this hour, too steady, too deliberate. Shadows move outside the wagon, shapes you do not immediately recognize. For a brief, terrifying moment, you wonder if you have already died, and this is some final confusion before nothingness. Then the wagon rocks slightly as someone leans against it. You try to sit up and fail. Your body does not respond the way you expect. The effort leaves you breathless, heart skittering wildly in your chest. You swallow and taste bitterness and old bile. Panic rises, but it has nowhere to go. You are too tired to sustain it. The canvas lifts. Cold air rushes in, clean compared to what you've been breathing. A face appears, unfamiliar and worn thin in a way that mirrors your own. A man older than you, beard streaked with gray, eyes sharp and cautious. He does not smile. He studies you the way a man studies a broken tool, not unkindly but honestly. You try to speak. Your mouth opens. Nothing comes out. The man nods once, as if this answers something for him. He turns and says something over his shoulder. You cannot catch the words, but you hear the tone. Measured, low, practical. No panic, no urgency, just assessment. You understand, distantly, that this is not rescue. This is overlap. Another train has caught up. They are thinner than you expected, quieter. Their wagons are patched and scarred, canvas darkened with old rain and smoke. Their animals move stiffly, ribs showing beneath hide. These are not fresh emigrants. These are people who have already been stripped down to essentials and kept going anyway. They have not come to save you. They have come because the trail pushed them here too. Someone hands your wife a cup. You watch her accept it with shaking hands, the steam curling upward like something alive. She looks at it for a long moment before lifting it to your lips. The smell is unbearable. Coffee, weak but real. You drink slowly, carefully. The warmth spreads through you in a way that is almost painful, lighting nerves that had gone quiet. Your stomach cramps hard in protest. You nearly retch, but you force it down. The man speaks again, closer now. You hear fragments. Too far gone. Needs time. Can't move today. The words float above you, detached from meaning. You focus instead on breathing, on the weight of the blanket over your chest, on the simple fact that you are still here. Food appears next. Not much. A scrap of bread, a thin slice of dried meat. Your body reacts before your mind does. Your hands twitch. Your mouth waters violently. Fear flickers through you. Fear of wanting too much, of taking more than you should. You hesitate, eyes flicking to your children. They are watching you closely, faces pale and serious. You break the bread in half without thinking and push part away.
Someone stops you. A hand, firm but not forceful, presses yours back. The older man shakes his head once. He says something quietly, and though the words are soft, the meaning lands clearly enough. Eat. There is no kindness in it, no encouragement, just instruction. You obey. The food tastes wrong at first, almost nauseating. Your body does not trust it. Then, slowly, sensation creeps back in. Salt, fat, the chew of meat. Your stomach clenches and twists, threatening revolt, but it holds. The pain is sharp and deep, like something waking up after being asleep too long. You grit your teeth and keep going. No miracle happens. You do not feel strong. You do not sit up and laugh. The world does not brighten. What happens instead is quieter and more unsettling. The slide stops. The sense of falling, constant, invisible, slows, then pauses. You feel as though you have been pressed against a cliff face and someone has finally driven a piton into the rock. You are still hanging. You are just not dropping anymore.
The day passes around you in fragments. You drift in and out, catching glimpses of movement and sound, wagons being adjusted, animals watered, voices trading information, river conditions, sickness ahead, rumors of grass thinning farther west. You realize that this new group is just as burdened as yours. Their help comes at a cost they can barely afford. By afternoon, you can lift your head without the world spinning completely apart. The headache dulls from a roar to a throb. Your hands still shake, but less violently. When your wife gives you more water, you can drink without choking. Each small improvement feels fragile, temporary, like ice forming on a pond that has not yet frozen solid. You hear an argument nearby, low voices, tense. Someone does not want to stop another day. Someone else insists they must. The words carry the weight of calculation, not emotion. You understand immediately what is being weighed. You are heavy, not just in flesh, but in consequence. Stopping costs time. Time costs food. Food costs lives. You wait for the resentment to come, for the looks, for the silence that marks a man as a burden. It does not arrive. Instead, there is something worse: acceptance.
These people know this place, this moment. They have been here themselves, or close enough to smell it. You see it in their eyes when they look at you. Not pity, not anger, but recognition. A quiet understanding that the trail does not always break people cleanly. Sometimes it wears them thin first, then waits. As evening falls, you are helped to sit up against the wagon side. The effort leaves you shaking and drenched in sweat, but you manage it. The horizon stretches out in muted reds and browns. The sun sinks slowly, as if dragging itself under the land. You realize then how close you came. Not to death exactly, to disappearance, to becoming a shape the trail would step around and forget. The thought settles into you with a weight that does not lift when you breathe out. Dinner is shared between trains, a pot passed hand to hand, thin stew, mostly water, a few soft pieces of something that might once have been meat. It is not enough for anyone. It is enough to justify stopping. You eat slowly, each swallow deliberate. Your body complains, then adjusts. You feel the warmth spread, fragile but real. You look at your children eating and feel something inside you loosen just enough to hurt. Night comes without drama. Fires burn low. The air cools. You lie back again, but this time the darkness does not press so hard against you. Your thoughts still wander, but they do not unravel completely. The voices in your head quiet to a murmur. You understand now that you have not been saved. You have been delayed. This train will move on soon. They cannot carry you. They cannot protect you. They can only give you a narrow window in which to recover enough to stand. If you fail, the outcome will be the same as if they had never arrived at all. As you close your eyes, listening to unfamiliar footsteps and unfamiliar breathing around you, you feel something shift. Not hope, not relief, but resolve, sharpened by fear. The trail gave you one more night, not as mercy, as a test. And tomorrow it will demand an answer.
You wake to the sound of rain you did not expect. It is light at first, almost polite, tapping against the canvas in an irregular rhythm that slips into your awareness slowly. For a moment, you lie still and listen, trying to decide whether the sound is real or another trick of your half-mended mind. Then a drop leaks through a seam and lands cold on your cheek. You flinch and open your eyes. You are still here. The wagon smells of damp cloth and old sweat, but the air feels cleaner than it has in days, cooler. You draw in a deeper breath than you have managed in a long time, and though your chest still tightens at the end of it, the breath does not catch or splinter. That alone feels like progress. Your body is weak in a quieter way now. The violent shaking is gone, replaced by a deep, pervasive exhaustion that seems to reach all the way into your bones. When you move your hands, they obey, slowly, reluctantly, but they obey. You flex your fingers and feel sensation return fully, painfully. It reminds you that recovery is not comfort, it is work.
Outside, the 2 wagon trains are already stirring. The rain has not stopped them. Nothing ever truly stops people on this trail. It only slows them, reshapes their plans. You hear voices, low, practical, unhurried. You recognize now the tone of people who have accepted that survival is a shared burden, not a solitary achievement. You sit up with care, bracing yourself against the wagon side. The motion sends a wave of dizziness through you, but it passes. That matters. Yesterday it would not have. Yesterday, sitting up felt like an impossible demand. Today, it is merely difficult. Your wife appears at the opening, her face lined with fatigue you recognize too well. When she sees you upright, something tightens and releases around her eyes. She does not rush to you. She does not speak. She simply hands you a cup. Warm broth. Thin, barely more than flavored water, but unmistakably food. You drink slowly, each swallow measured. Your stomach tightens, protests, then settles. The pain is dull now, manageable. You feel the warmth spread, small and contained, like a coal cupped carefully in your chest. You are painfully aware of how fragile it is. One wrong move could snuff it out. Outside, the rain has turned the ground to slick mud. Wagons are splattered with it. Boots sink and pull free with wet sounds. You watch through the canvas opening as people work, shoulders hunched, movements economical. No one looks rested. No one looks hopeful. They look functional. You envy that. The older man, the one who looked at you yesterday as if weighing a tool, passes by the wagon. He glances in, meets your eyes, and nods once. Not encouragement, confirmation. You are not finished yet. That is all the acknowledgement you receive, and all you need. The decision is made without ceremony.
The combined trains will move today. Not far, not fast, but they will move. You feel a cold knot form in your stomach that has nothing to do with hunger. Part of you hoped for another day, another pause, another chance to gather strength without consequence. That part of you understands now that there are no free days left. Every hour costs something. If you take too many, someone else will pay. You swing your legs toward the edge of the wagon and sit there for a long moment, gathering yourself. The rain has thinned to a mist, hanging low and gray. The land looks washed out, color leached from it, as if the world itself is tired. You plant your boots in the mud and stand. Your legs hold. They shake, immediately and visibly, but they do not buckle. You lean hard against the wagon, breath shallow, heart racing. The ground feels unsteady, but it does not tilt or roll. The world remains where it is supposed to be. The simple fact nearly brings you to your knees. You take one step, then another. Each movement feels deliberate, negotiated. Your muscles protest sharply, sending up flares of pain that make you grit your teeth. This is not strength returning. This is survival making one more demand. You accept it without argument. The line begins to move. You take your place beside the wagon again, one hand pressed flat against the wood for balance. The familiar creak of the wheels fills your ears, grounding and cruel in equal measure. The oxen lean into their harnesses, muscles bunching and pulling. The wagon lurches forward, and with it the world resumes. You walk, slowly, carefully. Every step is a calculation. You monitor your breathing, your balance, the faint tremor in your legs. You do not look far ahead. You keep your focus narrow, manageable. 10 steps, then 10 more. The trail does not need grand gestures. It only demands persistence. Rain softens the dust, turning it into mud that sucks at your boots. It makes the walking harder, heavier. Your calves burn. Your lower back aches with a deep, grinding pain. Sweat beads along your spine despite the chill. You welcome the pain. Pain means sensation. Sensation means you are still connected to your body. As the morning wears on, something shifts. Not dramatically, not all at once, but the feeling of collapse that haunted you
constant pressing loosens its grip. You still feel weak, you still feel close to the edge, but you are no longer actively falling. You are moving, however imperfectly, in the direction you chose.
The land changes subtly as the day progresses. The horizon grows uneven. Low rises break the flat monotony. The grass thickens in patches, greener where water has lingered. It is not abundance, it is not relief, but it is different. Different is enough to register. At the midday halt, you sit instead of collapsing. The act feels monumental. You lower yourself carefully, breathing hard, and remain upright. Someone passes you a cup of water. You drink without choking. Someone else hands you a small piece of bread. You hesitate only a moment before taking it. You eat it slowly, deliberately, feeling the energy seep in like a trickle through cracked stone. You look around and realize how many faces are missing, not just from death, but from turning back. Wagons that were once ahead of you are gone. The line is thinner, the gaps wider. The trail behind you is scattered with the unseen choices of those who decided the cost was too high. You feel a strange mix of relief and grief. Every wagon that leaves reduces competition for resources. Every wagon that leaves is a story cut short. You wonder how many more will disappear before this is over. When you stand again, the pain returns immediately, sharp and insistent. But it does not overwhelm you. You have learned how to move with it, how to pace it. You walk again, and the rhythm comes easier this time, not smooth, but familiar. As the afternoon light softens, the land opens into a wide valley. Not the valley you imagined when you first set out, not lush or inviting, just open, expansive. The kind of openness that promises nothing but space to continue. You stop for a moment without meaning to. You look at the land, at the wagons stretched thin across it, at your children walking quietly nearby. They look older, thinner, harder, alive. The realization settles over you slowly with a weight that almost buckles your knees. You have arrived at something. Not Oregon, not yet, but a version of yourself you did not know existed. The man who sold his life back east would not recognize you. He would not understand how narrow your thinking has become, how precise your priorities are. He would not understand how little you need now, and how much you are willing to endure to keep moving. As evening comes, camp is made again. Fires are lit with care. The rain fades into memory, leaving the air cool and clean. You sit by the wagon, wrapped in a blanket, your body aching deeply but holding together. You are still here. The thought does not bring joy. It brings a quiet, heavy awareness of what it cost, the faces you buried, the parts of yourself you left behind, the illusions stripped away, one by one. You look at your hands in the firelight. They tremble faintly, always now. You know they may never stop. That night, sleep comes easier than it has in a long time. It is not peaceful, but it is deep enough to rest. Your dreams are muted, fragmented, less insistent. When you wake briefly in the dark, you know where you are, you know who you are. That too feels like progress. As you drift back under, one final understanding settles into you, quiet and undeniable. You did not conquer this journey, you survived it. And survival has changed you in ways the land ahead has not yet begun to reveal. You wake to a silence that feels earned. It is not the uneasy quiet of danger held at bay, not the tense stillness that comes before something breaks. It is the ordinary silence of morning after survival has done its work. Birds move somewhere beyond the wagons. Wind passes through grass without urgency. Your eyes open slowly, and for the first time in a long while, you do not wake in a rush of fear. Your body still hurts. That is not changed. The pain is everywhere now, settled deep and permanent, no longer sharp enough to demand attention, but constant enough to shape how you move. When you sit up, your joints protest. When you stand, your legs tremble. But the collapse does not come.
The ground stays where it is. You stay upright. You have crossed something. The land around you looks different, though you know, rationally, that it is not. The valley stretches wide and open, green enough to feel almost unreal after so much brown and dust. Low hills rise in the distance. Trees gather in loose clusters along water you can hear before you see. The air smells alive, wet earth, leaves, growth. It is not paradise, it is not safety, but it is not the place that tried to kill you either. People move through camp with a strange restraint, as if afraid to disturb the moment. The wagons are fewer now. The line is thinner, stretched and altered by loss. Some faces are gone forever. Others will never quite look the same again. You recognize the look in yourself when you catch your reflection in a piece of polished metal, eyes that have seen too much and learned to keep it quiet. You help break camp with movements that are careful, deliberate. You no longer rush. You no longer waste effort. Everything you do is shaped by the memory of collapse, of lying helpless while the trail decided whether you were finished. You tie knots slowly. You lift only what you must. You save strength without thinking about it.
The wagon rolls forward and you walk beside it, as you always do. The creak of the wheels is still there, familiar as breathing. The oxen pull steadily. Your children walk close now, not because you ask them to, but because they have learned where safety feels closest. They do not chatter the way they once did. They watch the land. They listen. They have learned the trail's language too. As the day passes, people begin to talk about arrival. Not in celebration, not with excitement, in low, cautious tones. Someone says the valley ahead can support crops. Someone else says the soil is good if you know how to work it. No one speaks of easy lives or quick success. Those ideas were buried somewhere back along the trail, under shallow markers and unmarked ground. When you finally reach the edge of settlement, if it can be called that, it does not feel like an ending. A handful of rough buildings, smoke rising from chimneys that lean slightly, as if unsure of their own permanence. Fences that mark intention more than ownership. People who look at you not with curiosity, but recognition. They know the look you carry. They have worn it themselves. You stop the wagon and stand there longer than necessary. This is what you traded your old life for. Not comfort, not certainty, just ground that does not immediately try to kill you. You feel no surge of triumph, no relief strong enough to bring tears. What you feel instead is a quiet, bone-deep fatigue that has nowhere left to go. You help your family down from the wagon. Their feet touch the ground, and they look around with expressions you struggle to read. There is hope there, faint but real. There's fear too, learned and justified. You realize they will never be what they were before the journey. Neither will you. The days that follow are slower, heavier in a different way. You build, you repair, you learn the land. Your hands work while your mind drifts backward without warning. The sound of rushing water can still tighten your chest. The sight of a shallow grave can still stop you cold. At night, you wake from dreams where the ground gives way beneath you, where you are walking and never arriving. You do not talk about these things. Neither does anyone else. Trauma settles into the routines. It hides in the way you hoard food even when there is enough, in the way you count your children at night, every night, without fail, in the way loud arguments make your heart race, because once loud voices meant someone was dying. Sometimes when the wind moves just right through the grass, you hear singing. You stop what you are doing and listen, heart pounding, until you realize it is only the wind. The relief that follows feels fragile. You know some parts of the trail came with you, and always will. You think often of the people who did not make it, the man you buried, the child taken by the river, the wagons that turned back. You wonder where the line truly was between those who survived and those who did not. You know now that it was not strength alone, not preparation, not even luck, though luck mattered. It was timing, small choices, a body holding together one day longer than expected. You live with that knowledge carefully. Years pass. The land changes under your hands. Fields take shape. Seasons come and go. Your children grow taller, stronger. They laugh again, sometimes loudly. When they ask about the journey west, you tell them parts of it. You tell them about the walking, about the dust, about the rivers. You leave other parts unspoken. You are not hiding the truth. You are protecting it, keeping it from becoming something that defines them the way it defined you. At night, when the work is done and the house is quiet, you sit alone sometimes and stare out at the dark. You think of the trail stretching endlessly behind you, marked by invisible footsteps and uncounted losses. You understand now that it never truly ends. It just stops asking things of your body and starts asking them of your memory. You survived. Not cleanly, not heroically. You survived by bending, by giving up pieces of yourself you will never fully name. You survived long enough for the land to stop testing you every hour. And that is the truth you carry forward. The Oregon Trail did not make you strong. It made you precise. It taught you exactly how much a man can lose and still wake up the next morning and keep going. And every quiet breath you take now, every ordinary day that passes without disaster, is lived in the long shadow of that knowledge, steady and permanent, like a road that never truly disappears, no matter how far west you travel.